Hello, dear viewers. You are welcome to WSTV. When you are listening to me at this point of time, Israel and Israeli military is brutally ravishing Palestine and Gaza Strip. Hundreds of Palestinian citizens, civilians are already killed and thousands injured in these military attacks. Israeli military assaults and attacks have come on the heels of a Hamas offensive that has witnessed, as you know, an aerial and simultaneous ground attack. This attack is carried out by Hamas forces inside Israeli territory. The offensive had a sweep upon Israeli capital city of Tel Aviv. The offensive was carried out through armed intrusion by Hamas forces operating on ground at dozens of entry points inside Israel. Aerial attacks included massive firing of thousands of rockets by Hamas forces. The attack was probably the biggest in the history of Israel Palestine conflict. Surprise attack carried out in wee hours of Friday night was so swift that the unexpected Israeli soldiers were taken completely off guard. Israel, that claims expertise in spying activities and supplies its services and spy software like Pegasus to many countries all over the world, utterly failed to defend itself against poorly armed and poorly funded Palestinian guerrillas, the Hamas forces, has in fact dented its loud claims very badly. Israeli soldiers, often habitual of and trained for carrying out military assaults against unarmed citizens of Israel and Palestine both, were taken aback by such daredevil and surprise attack by Hamas forces. And the spying agencies of Israel could not detect this assault in the plans of assault in advance. That has that has damaged the image of Israel that it has created over decades. More than 200 Israeli soldiers are stated to be dead by now, and more than 1,200 are understood to be wounded and injured in the Hamas attack. Hundreds, in addition, are taken hostages by Hamas soldiers. Equal number of Palestinians are also dead, and around 1,700 are wounded. What happened on Friday night is, in fact, a powerful armed uprising of the oppressed Palestine citizenry. For long, Palestine has been facing unjustified blockade by Israel, by Israeli army, and also eviction of its civilians by Israeli soldiers in the occupied regions, specifically Gaza Strip. Repeated provocations at Al-Aqsa Mosque had been, and impositions of unbearable living conditions had made the uprising inevitable. After the uprising, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed insanely to drain more blood of Palestine. US, UK, and Germany were very prompt in reacting to the news of Hamas assault. Terming the Palestine resistance as terrorism, they declared unconditional and unwavering support for Israel and Israeli onslaught on Gaza Strip. US has as before declared an emergency package of $8 billion for Israel to aid and support its military expedition inside Palestine to crush its people, its civilians, its citizens. Sympathy and support of imperialist wolves for Israel is not new and is quite understandable. These wolves had always stood with oppressors and turned all resistance against this oppression as terrorism. In the past, Western imperialists have seen Israeli violence inside Palestine with total indifference and did nothing to stop it ever, not even in words. Following his counterparts, Biden and Sunak, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had also declared his support for Israel. The government under Modi is facing similar, if not same, situation at home in Kashmir and is dealing with the situation in Kashmir in the very same manner with same brutality. For long, India has shifted its stance on the question of Palestine. It is integrated more and more over time into the cobweb of US-led strategic alliance, of which Israel is a very important constituent member and an advance guard in the Middle East of US NATO imperialism. Zionist state, that is Israel, is the chief source of war and violence, not only outside of its frontiers, but also inside of them. Recently, Israeli masses have been on streets against the judicial reforms of right-wing PM Netanyahu. Through these reforms, as you all know well, Netanyahu is attempting to suppress the constitution, the constitutionality, and through it emasculate the opposition and judiciary both. Netanyahu has violently suppressed the opposition inside Israel against his proposed reforms. And under the garb of reforms, he wants to overthrow all legality, all constitutionality. He is implicated on the charges of corruption, and chances of his conviction were all-time high. For an year, he was under trial on corruption charges. Diverting the attention of the masses outside of the frontiers of Israel is preferred option for Netanyahu, and probably we can say that this is the only option left for him. Escalation of conflict with Palestine or other Middle East countries like Iran is the best suited solution to the interests of Netanyahu regime at this critical moment when Netanyahu himself is facing criminal charges and there is high probability of his conviction. US and NATO powers who are condemning annexation of Crimea by Russia and are pledging to help Ukraine to take it back are directly helping Israel to keep the territories of Palestine and Gaza under their control and occupation. What a contradiction. Israel is the recipient of US military aid in billions of dollars every year. Palestine has no such support from any country whatsoever. Every year, Israeli forces, with aid of US and NATO, with support of imperialists, kill and injure thousands of Palestinian civilians and citizens on one pretext or the other. Yet, the Palestinians are condemned as terrorists by right-wing media, servile to corporate interests and imperialist powers. Today, Netanyahu has issued chilling warning to destroy Gaza Strip and turn the cities of Hamas operations into cities of ruin. The fascistic threat is reflective of the Zionist character of Netanyahu regime to provoke Israeli people and bind them behind his degraded regime. Netanyahu is falsifying the aims of Hamas. Hamas is not opposing or condemning Jews, as Netanyahu claims, but the Zionist regime under Netanyahu that is occupying and intruding into the Palestinian territories. On appeal of Hamas, Hezbollah guerrillas have also started firing upon Israel from territory of Lebanon and Syria. Hamas has declared that it is resorting to war as Israeli oppression has become unbearable. Unbearable amid global silence persisting continuously on this injustice. After 5 decades of Yom Kippur war, the Hamas military strike has shaken the Israeli regime to its hilt. The uprising, Palestinian uprising, can be compared with 1943 and 1944 uprisings of Jews against Nazi regime in Warsaw ghettos. Like Nazi reaction in the uprising, Netanyahu is also planning a bloodbath and slaughter of thousands of Palestinian civilians. Netanyahu regime itself is marred in deep crisis at present. Protests of workers and youth earlier this very year have posed a huge challenge to the regime, and this challenge has not come to an end. Netanyahu regime has failed to suppress these protests even through violence. While imperialist wolves like Biden, Sunak or Modi support their cousin Netanyahu, billions of working people, not only inside Israel and Palestine, but all over the world, support the cause of Palestine and its struggle for liberation from the clutches of Israel. Corrupt regimes in Middle East have paid only lip service to the cause of Palestine and never ever have undertaken any effective steps against Israeli occupation and oppression by its armed forces. False theories of civilizational conflict or pan-Islamic movement fall flat on their face in case of Palestine as elsewhere. The workers and youth inside Israel must come out against Netanyahu, the common enemy of both Israeli and Palestinian working people. They must join hands with Palestinian resistance in opposition to both domestic and foreign policies of Netanyahu regime. Netanyahu regime must be brought down as soon as possible by the mighty movement, a joint mighty movement of Israeli and Palestinian youth and workers, as a first step towards advance to establishment of socialist states in West Asia and Middle East. Thank you very much, viewers, for being with us. Red salute to you all.